Hello, I'm Castle. I'm an experienced game industry veteran, 14 years experience with something like 12 shipped games. I want to do a segment where I create content for various different 3D engines and games. I want to show the creation process of content for each development environment and really go over a lot of what and really go over a lot of the details about the life of a level designer that is not commonly known. I want to go over the history of the first-person shooter and explain how the engines work. These aren't tutorials. They can be kind of like that, they can be used that way, but that's not the point of these videos. I don't intend to build new assets for any of these projects, but rather provide a glimpse into the life of the level designer and the experiences and quirks of being a level designer in its purest form. So you get to see all the weird stuff that happens that really most people never cover. There's just so many things. You go from different 3D engines, all kinds of weird stuff, crashing, and most of the 3D editing tools have never even been seen by the public eye. Even if the ones that are just regular community projects, what's it like to work with them? Which ones are better? Which ones have cool shit that's something that nobody else actually has? That's the kind of stuff I want to cover. What you're going to be experiencing is a time-lapse build of a Team Fortress 2 CTF level from start to finish. The video goes by really quickly, but you'll still be able to catch all the details, and I'll be providing commentary and explaining everything that's going on, and hopefully making fun of all the bugs. Oh my god. Hammer is a pretty good editor though. Didn't have too many, but there's some still really funny stuff. And first things first, I created the top-down flowchart and picked a setting that I wanted for the level. Everything is covered in this first document, and put a lot of thought into what I was gonna, how every area would connect and how everything should flow. I managed to stay pretty close to the original top-down, although there was a lot of interesting things that came up where I had to make some changes. And we're off. One of the first things you'll notice is that some of the level was already started. I didn't think of actually creating videos like this and doing segments like this until a little bit into the first building process of the level. This is still very much in the very beginning of the design process. Only the player spawns and some of the base layout has already been in place. For future videos, I will make sure that you see everything from the very first brush or model placed in the entire process. But for now, we'll start here. One of the things that was pretty interesting to work with is the input-output system that Hammer and the Valve tech actually uses for scripting. It's pretty good. It's entity-based scripting, like visual scripting, but it's not quite like Kismet or anything along those lines. It's actually a highly robust update to the kind of scripting from Half-Life 1, where you used to use these entities called multi-managers. We're really just trigger relays, but it'll be one entity that can do many of those functions at the same time. A little bit more organized. I plan to do segments in the future that actually covers that kind of scripting from earlier games, and how scripting has progressed over the years in different first-person shooters, from Doom all the way up to Call of Duty and Doom 3. Modern id tech. Whatever modern id tech I can get my hands on and make videos of. This is the creation of the sneaky air vent that I have planned out, sort of a way to get into or drop down into the flag base. It had to be redesigned a couple of times during this process. You'll actually see this happen. And here you can see I'm mostly just at this point, putting walls and ceilings and stuff like that on the layout that I originally planned for. Everything's kind of just, getting fleshed out enough where I can run around in the map and not have to look at, void space or whatever. At this point in time, everything seems to be pretty touch and go. I wasn't really struggling too much to figure out, what area should be doing what, and it was very free form at this point. And here's something that a lot of non-developers will probably not know about. This is something called a Hall of Mirrors. I remember getting these as far back as the original Doom. Hall of Mirrors just means that there's nothing to render, so it just makes that really weird effect. It's the equivalent of your video card saying, I don't know what to do. And the reason why the video card didn't know what to do is because there was nothing built over there. So here, when we look at the top down, you'll notice that I'm kind of looking over a lot of different areas that haven't been even started to create yet. That hallway that is now showing a hall of mirror will now turn into a brand new area, and you'll watch it unfold right in front of you. So this is the top of the dam. I originally wanted to try and have a curved top of the dam, but it just ends up being really difficult to actually try and do that. But I also noticed that there's size problems. Look at the size of this map. So I'm having this doubt at this point. I'm like, oh man, did I mess up choosing this environment? Like, is this even gonna work? It's just so huge. It was also really difficult for me to deal with the construction of this lower area. So this area underneath the dam, the secondary focal point, it ended up feeling like it was also just adding to the size of this really huge area. Like, I don't know exactly how I'm going to be able to get all of this down, so it took a really long time of fiddling and tweaking and moving things around in order to be able to actually get it to feel right. And you'll see, I'm like, alright, I'm moving stuff over here, like the doorway is a little bit too far, so now what I'm doing is I'm looking at a way of moving that doorway with the Hall of Mirrors closer to the center of the map. So I'm reconstructing the sneaky air vent, which at that point in time was where that doorway is now. So I moved it forward. So now I'm just jumping all over the place. I'm trying to, move everything around so that I can fit it all together. And this process was, really scary, because I thought, oh well, I'm recording myself, paint myself into a corner, and I started having doubts. I guess that's just normal. It usually ends up being that way. I guess mainly because anytime you go out and try to do something on your own, it's almost like you're kind of sticking your neck out, and it ends up just being this like process of self-doubt, which then leads to constantly trying to experiment, and the whole process goes like in these weird phases. It's like it starts off, all right, guns blazing, I'm getting this done, and then oh no, now I got to make it all fit. So this right here is an example of one of the things that makes Hammer's brush manipulation different from other editors. When you resize a brush, you're scaling it. You have to think about it in terms of being scaled, but it seems to have these weird math errors. So once you skew anything, or if you have multiple brushes selected and then they're not all perfectly lined, they will be forever off the grid. And anything that's off the grid, especially when working with brushes, is as annoying as hell. I mean, why? Why do it that way? I understand that you want to be able to rescale brushes, and brush manipulation, especially in a brush-based editor, is extremely important, right? But why make the entire process nothing more than the free transform function from Photoshop? I mean, hey, all right, let's take an environment where something that's off the grid can completely screw your level, and then let's give you the option to completely take everything off the grid just because you dragged something one unit over. Let's do it. It's 2014. I mean, this hasn't been solved yet. Nobody solved this yet, so it's probably I'm gonna die. The hammer will still have this after I'm dead, long gone. So anyway, on a lighter note, I'm starting to put down cover objects. The cover objects that I'm placing right now are more or less just to kind of give an idea of scale. Most of what I'm doing right now is just feeling out the areas and trying to get something that fits together right, where the areas kind of flow into each other. And at this point, I've already had to make changes to the original top-down. What's currently going on right now is removal of the donut hallway and attempting maybe a smaller donut and making it more of a connection to the flag room. That was the first try, and then later I found out there was something even more crazy that was wrong that I needed to solve, and I pretty much had to redo the area. This particular chunk of the level ended up having to be revisited maybe 3 or 4 times. So I kept coming back and maybe thinking about what I could do a little bit differently. I'm still not even quite happy with the end result. I'm almost positive that after feedback testing and such that I'm going to revisit the area again once I see people playing the map. Another thing that cropped up while building the level that I wasn't aware of is something that I ended up having to toil over for a while during the process, is the fact that my original top-down didn't think enough about proper conditions for snipers. Snipers need to have a way to be able to get access and a good vantage point of the center area of the level, the central focal point or choke point. They need to be able to get there seamlessly without having to actually fight anyone on the way there. The current layout that I had originally planned, I didn't think about that. All of the areas that it would, the sniper would actually have to travel through combat areas before he'd be able to get to a cool sniping spot, which is actually a really big problem. So I end up having to go back and revisit. So now what I ended up doing was planning a skywalk. It's kind of already in the layout, but there was just, during this point in the process, there was so much just trying to feel things out, trying to figure out what I'm going to do, that the level was constantly changing. It was weird. But you can see right now that I've added the skywalk, and the skywalk actually works. It's a good thing, and it added an extra connection. Although Team Fortress maps tend to be very choke point based. There are very few connections. These are not Call of Duty levels where they're like every area has 5 or 6 different ways to access it. These maps tend to be, you have one way to go and that's it. Maybe 2, maybe 3 connections for the flag room, and then you go left or right. And a lot of the maps are like that. I don't want to diverge too much from that, but I already have a fairly porous level, and I'm a little worried about players getting confused. So this extra connection is, well, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to see how people play the map before I can tell. Right now you're watching mostly just, construction of the skywalk, experimenting with how I wanted to do mid-ground, and brush cleanup work. See, eventually, I'm constructing the level with what's called a diaper, which is a giant box around the level. But I'm constructing the level in such a way that I can remove the diaper easily, and I'll have a properly constructed level, not using a diaper. A diaper is usually frowned upon, but in this day and age, modern level designers probably use diapers more than they should. It's pretty old school terminology. I practically think that every Call of Duty map I've ever worked on used diapers. And any time you try not to, it would be met with, why'd you do it this way? So there really wasn't too many problems working with the map so far, although I haven't really done very much other than just the block out. But what we got here was the first time I've seen the editor actually crash. Now this is pretty interesting. I'm not even sure what caused it, but all of a sudden it was like, boom, desktop, and what the hell? All I gotta say to this is save and save often, people. Shit happens. I can't believe. I'm a little embarrassed my desktop is there, but I mean, what the hell? It closes faster that way than you can if you actually choose File, Close, and exit the program. Sometimes it's convenient. You could be like, hey, I really want to get out of this out of this editor. Pow! Instantly, like it was never running before. So now I'm having to redo all my work. It wasn't that bad though. It was just a hallway. So this actually brings up another thing that happened, I think that was slightly related to the crash, is that Hammer has a really unique way of how you copy and paste. So holding down Shift and dragging, this is actually true for most editors. A lot of them do this, where you hold down Shift, or you hold down a key, and then you drag, and it duplicates the object that you have selected. That feature is extremely important in this editor because Control-C, Control-V, when you Control-V the object that you wanted to copy and paste, it places it on a different axis. So while it'll look like it's sitting next to it, now you got to go into one of the other windows and drag it up back to the place that it should be. And I'm pretty sure that there is an option, and I remember fighting with this when I was working with Sin episodes, but maybe there's an option hidden somewhere in the config or something like that to get away from this problem. But holding down Shift is a fantastic way to duplicate an object that you have selected, and there's really no need to worry about Control-C, Control-V. Control-C, Control-V can just go away. As far as I'm concerned, it is a totally useless feature in the editor at the moment, except for if you're doing very specific things. So what you're seeing right now is the removal of the diaper that I mentioned earlier. So I had done a lot of preparation in the building of the level to make sure that I could do this, and I'm going ahead and actually doing it. Removing the diaper simplifies a lot about how the level is stored, and makes compiling faster, does all kinds of stuff. Having a diaper is a bad thing unless the engine is specifically designed for it, because people don't know how to build any other way. Some games are like that. But for this more old school editor, diapers are just bad, and I try to avoid them whenever I can. So using the no draw texture, it's a little bit easier for me to pick it out. Now I'm flying through, making sure that there aren't any leaks. And a leak is when there's a hole in the level that gets outside of the map. That's why diapers make things so much easier, because you guarantee that you don't have a leak. In my case now Now that I removed the diaper, I have to be cautious to make sure that there are no holes in the level to allow the hollow mirror's void space to seep its way in and, you know, mess everything up, make everything take longer to compile, and make the level not run correctly. So now at this point, now that I have a level that is properly vised with no diaper, it's now time for me to start thinking about at least having a base lighting pass on the level as well. Because if I don't do this, the level will appear in darkness, or it'll be in full bright, and it's just kind of ugly to look at. It's just a good point in time. So I'm going through other maps and I'm looking at my light map densities, making sure that everything is ready for me to start doing a base light map pass. And for those of you who don't know what light maps are lighting. They're shadows. Basically, they're information that's just stored on all of the walls, floors, and ceilings of the level to make it look as though the level is lit realistically. And Valve Tech has, well, actually the tools, Hammer and the compiler, have a really fantastic radiosity compile, which means that the lighting realistically bounces and everything like that, and it's actually pretty damn solid. I've worked with some better lighting methods, but this one's consistent at least, and I like it. It makes it so you can just, you know, have one light source in a room and it bounces realistically and creates nice effects all on its own. Radiosity is a fantastic option. If you can pull it off, having it in your in your lighting compile, it is definitely worth it. You can also see at this point I've been doing some basic item passes for pickups, very closely following the layouts for other capture the flag levels, and trying to stick, you know, as close as possible to what they did in their maps. Some of their maps actually have some weird quirks, like putting a health and an ammo right next to each other. Hopefully, you know, it should work out. I won't really know how well the pickups will work until people start playing the level. I'll have to figure out how to get people to play. At about this point in the process, I was doing, you know, setting up the bases, but I also learned the hard way that decals are not so easy to do. There's an extra step that I'm not aware of yet. I remember having to deal with this before, and there is an easy way to actually solve the problem, but I've been so busy just, you know, getting everything laid out that I haven't really bothered to figure out how to get decals to work properly, especially when they're copied. Now at this point in the video, I'm taking a look at this extra connection that I added, and as far as I can tell, this area seems pretty good. But there's something really bugging me about this stairwell right here. Right now it's a ramp. I don't think there's enough space for two players to get by each other, which is a big problem. Every single connection that you build from one area to the next has to have enough space for two players who are going in opposite directions to get by each other. If you break this rule, you will have very angry players. So during this process of widening this hallway, something else came up. Weird sight lines are also a huge detriment to level design. You have to make sure that people can see each other equally. Weird sight lines can cause all kinds of weird things, getting sniped from behind a hallway all the way down across the other side of the map. Well, when I made that hallway wider, I opened the floodgates wide open and immediately had to remind myself, oh no, are there any more situations like this in the rest of the level? I haven't been paying attention, so now I'm going through all this extra effort to make sure that I can fix this sight line. So I put up a wall over here, I did all kinds of weird stuff to make sure that a sniper can't just like hide in a corner all the way on the other side of the map and shoot you in the foot to death. Well, remember this hallway I built before? Well, get ready to be shot in the foot to death here too. This is not good. This is really bad. Look at this. I can even get away with being a head that can kill everybody. And nobody's coming through that, and all they're going to be able to see is somebody's fucking head. And the bullets will be coming through the ground. So, okay, so this area is just no, 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 no. So while we're at it, dealing with heads that can kill you from all the way across the map, there's another thing about being a level designer that a lot of people probably don't know about. The visitors. I don't even think this is the center of the world. I got this object. It appeared here. I don't know why or where it came from, but it happened. I mean, you watched me build the level. You see it, right? This shit just, what the fuck was that? Like, why was there a weird decal? So at this point, I'm pretty much going to the drawing board with this entire section of the map on this corner, because a head that can kill you from all the way across the level is a little bit unacceptable. I don't know, some people might like it, but I definitely don't want it happening in anything I ever create. So I'm messing around, and this whole area ends up being a nightmare for a while. Like, okay, alright, I'm going to do this. You know, I wonder how fast it would have been if I knew everything, like, right away. Like, level design would take 5 minutes to make a whole fucking level. These boxes are definitely too big. They're really just placeholders. I'm going to use actual meshes and stuff like that to replace those. But I'm kind of just getting a feel for where, you know, I kind of want stuff to be. So one of the other things here is that I think I want to move the doorway to this side of the area right here. I'm shooting it right now. So at this point, I'm kind of going in, I'm moving everything around, and I get it to a point where I'm happy with at least half of this section. Clean up some of the brushwork, and I'm just kind of leaving it for later to come, you know, to revisit at this point in time, because it's time for me to start getting busy with the other side of the map, the underground area, and trying to figure out how I can get this, you know, the area underneath the center point of the level. I found this section of the level to be excruciatingly difficult, not only because for some reason I decided to build triangle brushes like that, which is totally not how you need to do things in this editor at all, because you can build primitives, but I didn't at the time know about how to build primitives. I should have assumed that you can build brush primitives. I knew this, I don't know why, so I just made triangles. It's really stupid. This entire section down here, though, I don't know, I spent a lot of time, like, not in the editor, just trying to think of what the hell I'm going to do down here. Like, the photograph that I had like a cool look to it, but then I started realizing that this level is already really big. If I go and I try to build an area like that, the level is just going to be ginormous. It's not going to play very well. So now I started experimenting with different stuff. And ironically, what I ended up doing was pretty much exactly what my top-down was. I was planning on doing something different. I was planning on doing, you know, those cool, like, turbine things that generate power, but, well, now they're tinier turbine things that are cover. I'll figure out how to make them look better during the art phase, but right now, that is, yeah. So, here's the area in-game as a heavy. It looks like a heavy can cover this area pretty nicely, but there's just enough complexity. It'll be pretty interesting to see how this area plays out. It'll take at least 2 people to cover it. Now I'm just kind of like, I'm pretty happy with this area here in general. It feels good running in through this area that I reconstructed moments ago. I still hate this spot. This spot's weird. It's got weird sightlines. There's all kinds of stuff. I'll have to figure out. I mean, I'm just not happy with it. No. So here I am doing a weird sightline check, just trying to, oh, I could see into that hallway from all the way out here. Well, it's unlikely a sniper will ever get out here, and it's, weird sightlines aren't as big of a deal in Team Fortress 2 as they are in Call of Duty. Call of Duty, everybody's a sniper, so it matters a lot more, and they call it sliver gameplay. Team Fortress 2 isn't really a game that's built that way. You get a lot of soldiers running around with rocket launchers. Weird sightline's not going to make or break your game, but I'm still dealing with weird sightlines. I think it's just a good practice to make sure you don't allow that kind of weirdness. Alright, so here is something that a lot of level designers have experienced. Anyone who's ever worked on a symmetrical capture to flag level or a symmetrical level at all will have experienced this at least once. The copying of the level. Oops! Uh-oh. Looks all fucked up now. And you know what? Undo ain't safe either. At this point, it's time to give up. But I tried anyway. Oh, look at this. Oh, shit. Oh fuck, what's going on now? It didn't copy. I held down shift, I swear I did. This is just, oh god, and then I tried to undo, right? And I'm like, okay, whoa, what the fuck? Where's the entire map? Where's the entire level? Everything's gone. At this point, it's abort. Just close it, don't save anything. Just get out of the editor. Go. Okay, alright, maybe we can start over. Okay, whew. Capture to flag level design, ladies and gentlemen. When you want to copy the level, it can be really fucking hit or miss. I guarantee it. So, try it again. I use Control-C, Control-V. Alright. Seems to be going. Is it working? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? Ah, it lined up. But it was a little off. Okay. Yeah! Alright. Whew. Now it's time to do the part of the process where you're going in damage control. Find out all the entities and whatever broke, textures that got misaligned, everything. I mean, I just grabbed an entire chunk of level and horizontally rotated it or flipped it, and here it is, So I take a look at what's going on in game, and the level is really large. I mean, it's functional right now. Here's me capturing. You scored a point. Oh, that's the first time I've been able to do that in the level. It's working, but midfield is probably larger than an entire level at the moment, which is just not how it should be. So at this point, another thing started to occur to me. Well, it doesn't look enough like a dam at the moment. This is definitely fixable, but this kind of a dam is very different looking from what I originally wanted to do, but it still can be a dam. It's a straight shot. There's still plenty of dams that look that way. It's just not the Hoover Dam. But what are you gonna do? The Hoover Dam isn't a fun layout. This is more conducive to Team Fortress gameplay, so it makes more sense to go this route. So my goal at this point is to begin experimenting with making this look like a dam, and there's plenty of concept for that. Another thing that I began doing in this area was bringing in the size of it in every way, not only just the size of the midfield, but also moving the sky in a little bit closer and making sure that the center area, didn't envelop so much, that there wasn't such a large ceiling. The player's never going to get to see the ceiling, everything that's above on the roofs of the building anyway. I'm clipping all that off, unless, soldiers start to complain enough that they can't rocket jump up there or something, but I don't really want to plan for that. I don't want people, getting on the roofs of the buildings. I think the map's already big enough and weird enough at this point in time, but I'm definitely up for allowing people to get onto the roofs of the tower and the building, but I'll have to be careful how I go about clipping things off. I don't know. I'll have to find out from actual Team Fortress players, see if anyone gets upset. You could start seeing the beginnings of how I'm setting up midfield to be an interesting combat space, not allowing people to be sniped from all the way across, and trying to avoid slivers, although there ends up still being some small areas where if you poke your head out, a sniper can catch you. I think it's a little bit different. It's not necessarily sliver gameplay per se when it's actually a spot that's sort of a strategic sniper spot where you kind of have to know not to poke your head out or you'll get shot. I don't want to completely, remove all of that from everywhere. I think midfield is kind of an okay place where, you already need to know that you need to stay in cover. We'll have to see how playtesting goes because a lot of this stuff is going to be determined by that. And here you'll see that I've made some weird structures for out of brushes, and I'm grouping them together as funk details. Funk details require that I build geometry behind them that is using a no-draw texture so that they don't cause leaks. Funk details are, don't have effects on visibility culling, which is part of the BSP system. I'll cover exactly what BSP is in a different segment. It's how the levels are broken up into spaces that can see into each other, and it's a topic basically all of itself. Here you can see that the model that I picked doesn't quite fit, so I had to find a different fence model. Starting to try and get some models in place and to kind of help the blocky look of these levels. They call them block meshes for a reason, but I tend to find that a lot of people don't understand what a block mesh is. It's difficult when you want people to play test your level, and it's like, what the hell, why does it look so weird? But that's, part of the process is, this is when you want to play test a level before you start making it look pretty. But you need it to look at least decent. I mean, this is especially true if you're an indie developer and you're working on your own games. A game that's, only using placeholder art, well, you'll have a difficult time getting people to want to play your maps. It's not true, however, when you're working in a larger development house. Larger development houses have the advantage that you're surrounded by other developers. And, usually other level designers can look at a block mesh and go, oh, okay, I see a bunch of cars parked in the parking lot. Nobody else will be able to really do that. They'll look at it and be like, why is there so many boxes in here? I don't get it. But that's just one of those things you have to figure out. If you're not in a big development house, then you're going to have to be prepared to put more art. Well, I guess that's not always actually true. Sometimes the bigger development houses expect you to art the map right from the get-go. But levels like this, especially arena-style FPSs, require block meshes a lot, and very, very early playtesting, because the gameplay is very unpredictable. So at this point, I'm nearing the completion of the block mesh. I'm starting to add details like this. Now, this is going to just look really weird to people, but Valve Tech has a terrain system that converts brushes into terrain, which means that they become like meshes. And you can apply depending on the material that you apply to the surface of it, you can do blending for different textures and stuff like that. So you can get like rock to go to grass and everything like that. The only thing that I have found is that when you do it this way, I'm making lots of blocks. This is obviously going to have to be adjusted, but using their system, if you don't have these things called T-junctions, it's very easy for you to make stuff like this look very organic, and then put blends on them, and then add little extra details here and there. Right now, it looks like Minecraft. So at this point I'm doing a base clipping pass just to make sure nobody can get up above the towers or any really weird spots, and nobody can jump over the fence, because I know you soldiers like to rocket jump all over the place. So I guess we'll have to figure out what's going on with that. But now there's also that weird thing. For some reason, every once in a while, after you're finished copying the brush, it disappears, and you have to like find the right angle to look at it again. I don't get it. It happens sometimes. It's really strange. At this point, the levels block mesh is pretty much done. I'm fixing up the input-output system on these doors, making sure that their entities are named correctly and that they're being called correctly on the red side of the base, so that the red team can, have properly working doors and ammo depots and things of that nature. Making sure that all those little final touches so that the map is fully playable are in place, and it seems like everything's going well at the moment. Okay, so at this point you can see that I'm on my scout right now, and looking through the red base, I can see everything is in place. It looks like all the doors are working. You can kind of run around the whole entire map at this point in time. There's a base lighting pass. The midfield is functional, and kill brushes are in place. Everything that's needed for gameplay. That right there annoys me. That was falling through that hole right to get to there. I'm gonna have to figure out a better way to, or I don't know, figure something out for these holes that take you down into that pillar room. I want everybody to have to go through the central area, so you have to get through the central area in order to fall down that hole. By the looks of it, it seems like the map is ready for playtesting. I'll see, if I can get a server up, or put the level up for download, or something along those lines. And that's pretty much it for now. Really curious to see people play. I want to see what kind of comments I get. And once I know how the level plays and make adjustments based on that, I'll take it to art phase and make the level look pretty. And that's that. This is pretty much it. My Team Fortress 2 CTF map. Took about a week to make. Okay, so with that said, the entire level built right before your eyes, all the way up to its block mesh phase. I'm really curious to hear any comments or feedback about either the video or what I could do to improve the video itself, or even just about the map. I mean, this is kind of a weird thing because it's a two-pronged project here. It's like a project about making videos and also building these maps. So I have two things. I'm being attacked from two different fronts at the same time. It's going to be pretty interesting to juggle that. But I also want to give thanks for anybody who has helped me thus far. Helping me out, getting the software and everything like that I need in order to be able to do this. I'm really curious to see if anybody wants to see more.